So how are you?
Good, good. Yeah, living the life.
Living the life? Have you
Living the
had some
life. Yeah,
downtime?
yeah, yeah. I kind of I had such a crazy run up until like December last year. We did the World of Era tour, and that kind of started in North America and then went to South America and then Europe. But it was like kind of back to back to back to back for like almost 3 or 4 months. So after that, I was a bit frazzled to be honest, and I kind of felt like I needed to regroup and sort of figure out what I want to do next. And so I kind of yeah, I took on not that many gigs in the past few months. I did a gig in Flume in January, and then a couple of Irish. I'm Irish, so I took a couple of like local shows the past while. But finally getting back on the road again now from next weekend. So yeah, it's all going to kick off again.
Is that why you said when you kicked off the year and you said new year, new sound? Was this your time when you regrouped and thought, you kind of wanted to go in another direction?
Yeah, I think like halfway or at least 3/4 of the way into the tour. Yeah, I kind of felt like I don't want to say I was getting bored of the stuff that I was playing, but I just felt like I was over it a little bit, because the for anybody that's followed the Rebuke project religiously over the years, they've seen that I've like shifted from sound to sound quite a lot, so I went from the more tech house stuff to techno to melodic, and that's just always the way I've been. If you think about just personally kind of music that we like, it changes all the time, and that happens too for artists. It's like it's not always a case where like we're going to do the same thing for 10 years. And I kind of felt like I could feel it in the waters that something was, I was like urging me to try something fresh, and I kind of needed a bit of time off to explore again. And before that was very much on the lead up to the album, and then the full album tour. It was a lot of like getting a day in the studio here, and then being on the road for another 2 weeks, and then getting another day here, and it all felt a bit rushed. And I think I needed a bit of time to like just actually figure things out, which I'm so glad I did, because I'm coming into this new kind of, I guess, new sound with a real kind of energy that I didn't have for a while. And I feel like it's a good sort of, it's a good step in the right direction.
Do you feel like it's all coming to you naturally now, this sound?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, um, I don't really overthink it too much when I'm working on stuff. I just kind of let it out, and like, a way that I work a lot. I work in spurts quite a lot. So like to explain that, it's like and maybe like one week I could come up with like 20 ideas, 30 ideas, not 30 tracks, like just ideas, and usually from those ideas I'll like flesh out three or four of them, and it's very hard to do that if you don't have like a lot of time to mess around in here and just like be in one place, so I've been doing a lot of that, and then that's led to some really cool kind of opportunities and like really cool songs. And the sound sort of you know led its own path really, which is how I've always done things anyway. And then we put up a post back in, God, I think it was maybe February, just like previewing some songs, and they got like a super good reaction. And then I was like, all right, cool. So people seem to like what's going on here. And then we put up another post last month, and that went really well. Kind of went viral, if you want to call it that. So,
Yeah, I
you know,
saw. You
um,
did really well. You got so much support from that.
yeah, and a lot of it was quite heartwarming, because a lot of the kind of OG guys
Yeah.
that like I was associating with very early on in my career, like BB and Jamie Jones and all those guys. Like they all started coming back in and showing a lot of love. And that for me that was sick, because in the back of my head I was kind of like, oh, am I a bit of an outsider now again, because I've fucking sacked it off for a while, and I started changing direction. And are they going to think that I'm just coming back on here to jump on bandwagons and stuff? But they were super receptive of it, and the DJ support's been class, and we've locked in some really good records for this year, and some really cool collaborations as well. And it's great. It just gives me like this brand new energy, man, that I didn't have for a while, and I'm super happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It must feel really good as well, actually creating stuff that you want to create, like you said at the beginning, instead of sometimes just kind of going with it, but doing what feels good and natural to you must just feel like so much weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely. And also it's just nice that it got received well, because when I was in the weeds of it all, I was kind of like, oh, I'm working on all these tracks, but I've not really shown anybody them. And I'm like, how's this going to go? This could go either way. And then, I'm a glutton for, what's that word? when I want to be accepted by somebody or by people. It's I guess the word escapes me, but I always like, especially fans. I love to hear that they like my stuff, and it's just obviously, but it's one of those ones where sometimes you're working on stuff and like, oh, it's just too weird, and especially the kind of music that I make is generally a bit wonky, and like sometimes it can be a bit too weird, and I go off the deep end a little bit, but so it's been received really well, and it sort of gave me a lot of hope that the stuff I'm working on now will get received well as well, and it's nice to like work on stuff that you love and then people love it as well. It's that to me is the coolest thing, and that's what I'm getting such a buzz about at the minute.
Did you feel nervous putting that post out with a few previews of the music that you've been working on?
Nah, not really, because like I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They fucking hate it. It's like, all right, well, I'll just go make some more music. It's like I think if it was like a couple of years ago, I probably would have. I remember like when I kind of first broke through, I was like always super nervous about my next step and what I was going to do, cautious about making sure it sounds like this and that. But now I'm a little bit kind of a little bit more mature, let's say, and I've been through the mill a few times, and it's just like if you like it, you like it. If you don't, I don't give a fuck. It's just like what can I do? So, but I think that's something that stood
Yeah.
for me the past whatever 6 or 7 years. What's cool is that like a lot of the fans will just follow the journey. So a lot of the fans that were there 4 or 5 years ago are still into what I do now, and I've obviously changed direction and gone over and back in different places, and tried to innovate or whatever. But they're still there, which is cool.
That's so nice. You have such a great community around you, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I think it's an Irish thing a little bit, especially early days. Whenever I broke through first, it was just like the Irish contingency was like everywhere. I would be playing like in the middle of San Francisco, and there would be a bunch of J1 Irish students there for the summer going bonkers, shouting Irish chants, and I'm like, this is in the middle of San Francisco on a Thursday night. What the fuck? And even like some like remote places like Colombia and stuff, I'd be playing somewhere in the middle of Medellin or something. Like thing, some Irish guy shouts from the crowd. I'm like, what? How'd you even get here?
That's so funny. But it's like wherever you go, it's like whatever city you go to in the world, there's always an Irish bar, isn't there? Or an Irish
You'll always
pub.
find a party somewhere, anyway.
Yeah, literally. Which part of Ireland are
So
you from?
I'm from Donegal, so it's way up north. It's near Derry. It's like it's right
What's
on the
it called?
border between
What's it called?
Donegal,
Donegal.
Donegal.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like it's right on the border between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. So I'm on the southern side, but like I could be in Derry in like 20 minutes. That's my closest airport. So, but it's way away. It's like 4 hours from Dublin. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
really, really, really far. Like you couldn't go any further up north. You're kind of at the end of the. That's why we've got such nice beaches and stuff there, all that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I,
But
I
so yeah,
moved to
yeah.
Northern Ireland this weekend.
Ah, nice. Where you go?
I went to Portrush and Donaghadee.
I know
Donaghadee?
Port Rush. I've actually played there before. There used to be this like
You?
club called Kelly's. Yeah,
Yeah, Kelly's,
it
yeah.
was like it was like a legendary club for like 30, 40 years. Tiesto and Coxie and all those guys all played there, and it used to be like one of the best clubs in Europe. People would fly into Port Rush to play, or fly into Belfast to go to Port Rush to go to the show. It was massive. It was on like BBC. Loads of like essential mixes were recorded there and stuff. Yeah. I think it closed set or maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But yeah, Port Rush is good. And they've got really nice fish and chips there as well.
Oh, I know, amazing. Like literally when we went, I was like, the only thing I really want to do is walk along the beach. We had great weather as well and eat fish and
It's like
chips.
yeah, that's basically what you do when you get to Port Rush.
Yeah, exactly. Do you still play a lot in Ireland?
I actually just played there last weekend. I did a corporate thing for Coors Light in Dublin, which was interesting. But it was all right. But I play like when I broke through first, I was playing all the time because obviously like going back to what I was saying about the community thing, I was like the records were really popping in Ireland, before anywhere else, and I would be playing like almost every weekend somewhere in Ireland. But now not so much. It's usually like the bigger cities, like usually I'll do like Dublin once a year and Belfast maybe once a year, the bigger kind of shows, but not so much the kind of smaller towns anymore. The last time I played here was in Letterkenny and Donegal, where I'm from. It was a charity gig, so I don't really play too much here anymore. But it's always cool to come back here because they're always just the Irish crowds are just next level. Anybody that's played there will be able to tell you it's crazy.
Do
They're
you
like
think
Scottish, I
it is?
think.
one of the craziest crowds out there.
Definitely like Irish, Scottish, and then South Americans. They're all very like. So it's funny that you'd be like comparing Irish with South Americans, but in terms of like energy, they've really got it matched, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but it's good. I love playing in Ireland. It's always great, and it's also never too far from my house, so I just drive home afterwards instead of getting a 10 hour flight somewhere,
Yeah,
which is good.
totally. When you first broke through, can you remember where your first ever international gig was?
It was in a it was in a paintball club in Wales in a place called uh fuck, I can't remember the name. It was like it took me 3 buses to get there. Uh and then the promoter got drunk that night and then forgot to pick me up again, so I had to get 3 buses back to get to the airport in Wales. I can't. It was like the nearest, yeah, the nearest airport was Cardiff, but I can't remember the actual name of the place. But yeah, it was a paintball club. That was my first. Well, I guess international, right? I guess it is. It's Wales, But
Yeah.
like first gig outside of like UK and Ireland, I actually can't remember. Maybe Spain or something. Maybe or something. I don't know. But yeah, I've been through
And
them all.
and from always playing, from being used to at the start just playing within Ireland, did you really see the difference and feel the difference when you went to play internationally with the crowd? Like the crowd was a bit different in different places.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that took a bit of work actually because I was a resident in a club here in Letterkenny called Outhouse, and we had booked. I was the promoter as well, and I kind of strategically ran the night so that I could book DJs that I liked, so that I could send them music and get do that sort of thing. So I would have booked like Solardo and Camel Fat and Alan Fitzpatrick and those guys, who all ended up becoming my friends. But I was a resident, so I was only ever really playing the one place all the time. So I knew exactly what was going to work for that crowd because it was always the same people every week. But then once I broke through, I mean, playing in South America versus playing in like I don't know, San Diego, it's very very different. And it took a bit of work actually. It took a bit of work because of how nuts the Irish crowds are, where like the reactions you get are so nuts, and then you go to play somewhere in North America where they're a bit more relaxed and they're not like tops off swinging them from the rafters sort of thing. But that's all I knew. And then I go there, I'm like, these guys even like this, and then like you would see tweets the next day saying, "Oh, it was my favorite set of the year," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, you actually liked it. I thought you hated it because you weren't like running around like a lunatic."
Like, why isn't anyone taking their tops off over here?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Speaking of North America, you're back on the road as from next week, right?
Yeah, yeah, we go
What?
to.
No, sorry.
I think we yeah we start in I think we start in Miami and then we do New York, and then we go back. We head over to Australia then. So I'm looking forward to it.
You're going to Australia from New York.
Yeah, yeah, because we were supposed to come back, but with all the carrying on happening in the minute, it was easier for us just to go straight from New York to. Actually, we're flying into New Zealand. It's like an 18-hour flight, so we'll do that rather than going back and then trying to go through Middle East or whatever.
Do you fly with a tour manager?
I did, but I've started taking a videographer with me for the past while because I've been told I need to get myself out there more and like show people my amazing personality, which
Yeah.
might get me in trouble and might actually get me cancelled someday.
You will never get cancelled. Do you know what? There's so much love for you out there. Whenever I ever speak about you or I hear anyone talk about you, nobody ever has a bad words to say about you. So I'm sure people would love to know more about you.
How much did my management pay you to do that or to say that?
Okay, over. You're good.
It's like 50 euro, it was 100 euro last time, but nah. I mean, look, I like to, it's, I don't know, man. Again, I think it's just an Irish thing, not to like fucking big up the Irish all the time, but we're just generally nice people, and we like to kind of be treated the way or we like to treat people the way we treat our. So it's kind of like it's just born into me, man. I don't even try, and it's actually easier to be nice to people than to be an asshole. That's what I found through the years. And it's actually generally like I genuinely have interest in people, So when I'm on the road and I'm sitting in a car with a driver for an hour, I'll like just ask him a bunch of questions and like just be sitting picking his brain all the time. And it's crazy the kind of the stories you hear from just doing that. But then other times I don't want to speak to nobody, so it just depends on the day, really. But yeah,
I guess the beauty of your job and your role as well within the industry is, you get to go to all of these amazing places and meet so many people from so many different backgrounds and generations and cultures that it's such a great opportunity to meet these people and listen to all of the stories that they have.
yeah. And I try not to take it for granted, even though like sometimes when you're like in the middle of like some mental tour, you're just like you just want to go to bed, but like. I do understand that like the part like where I am now in life will probably not be like that in 15 years time whenever I'm like older and I've got a family and stuff and I'm not going to be on the road every weekend and I'm not going to get to see the world every weekend, so I try and I try and make the most of it. And again, this is kind of why another reason why I wanted to bring a videographer because he'll probably egg me on a bit more to do more as well and just to have because I find like when I'm on my own I sometimes just like sit around the hotel and not really do anything. But like when I'm with somebody, I kind of go out and check places out and stuff. So yes, it's cool. But yeah, definitely, definitely.
Talking of, being on the road, I just want to go back to the States, and you're playing next week in New York. What is it about New York that excites you so much about playing there?
Yeah, New York's a funny one because I've been coming there for so many years. I mean, like I used to play. I've played from like tiny, tiny rooms to like the bigger shows like the Mirage and stuff. And I just found like New York was always like when I started to tour America, it was always the market that was sort of the most receptive to what I did. And I think because New York's probably just such a melting pot that the crowds there are always super fun. I always get a lot of people coming to the shows, and I always got a lot of love. So I played back in I think it was November, and it was a really good show. So I'm excited to come back again, and it's yeah, I think I do a 3 hour set or something or a 2 hour set, something like that. But yeah, it's good. It's probably one of the first gigs I'm going to do this year where I'm going to like debut all this new music as well, which is like no better place I think because they're so open to I do some gigs and they're just waiting for the big records, and I get that, it is what it is. But I think when I played New York, they still want the big records, but they'll wait for it and they'll work with you, and it's great to have that. And also the lineup. I actually created the lineup myself this year, and just have some like cool guests that I've got coming on the label later in the year, and some up and coming artists that I like. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Do you feel like then the crowd in New York, if you're able to, try out all of this new music, are they quite open-minded as a crowd, do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I think they are, and I think the New York crowd, because they're exposed to so many artists every weekend, they kind of they know, they just hear so much different music, and like the one thing I always, and this is not just New York, but just America in general, the one thing I noticed, which is a little bit different to say Europe, is that like if I click on a profile of somebody that's been to my show and then I see I have a quick flick through. One week they could be going to see like I don't know Above and Beyond play, and then the next week they could be going to see Sasha play, and then the week after that they're going to see Rebüke play, and it's like there's such a like difference. Like they don't really seem to care as much about genre barriers, which I think in Europe isn't as bad as it was, but it's still kind of there. It's like if you're into the minimal, tech house stuff, you're also not going to be into techno or electro, and you pick
Yeah.
your genre. But and that's why I love America is because I can naturally I drift genres anyway, just from the music that I make and the years of trying out different stuff. And I think with America I can do that, and particularly in New York. It's New York's a great place to do that. So it's a really good starting point to go back on the road again and try out some new music.
Yeah, no, that's such a cool point actually. I was doing an interview with Chris Avantgarde not long ago, who I know he's very fond of you, and I know you guys are
It's my
mate.
boy.
He
That's my
is.
boy.
And we had this exact same conversation, and it was all about, are we in a genre blended era of music, or is it kind of going that way? And I think you're right that maybe over this way, over in Europe, that people are still very much like, I will only go to this specific genre. Um, But it's nice to see and hear that in other places there are people that are a lot more open-minded and will listen to any type of genre and gives you the access and possibility to cross genres and blend genres wherever you want to.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. I mean, Chris is a great example of somebody that does that, and I think it's great for it's just a joy when you're DJing and you can play, different types of records and you're not worried about, well, if I play this one, will the crowd not like it because it's not techy enough or it's not, electro enough or housey enough. And it's just, I find with America, they just love good tunes, so it's like, it's, for me, it's great.
Do you have a favorite ever memory from playing in New York?
Probably, probably I did a show in Brooklyn Mirage a couple years ago where, uh, it was with Green Velvet and Clav on Stroke. They were doing their Get Real project, and I was on after them. And they gave me such a good opportunity because like, it was a sold out show, and at the time I wasn't really, I wasn't doing that much really. So, they gave me like they put me on a real pedestal, and let me finish the night off in front of a full room of whatever, a couple of thousand people, and they hung around afterwards and they were dancing in the booth, and then Claude Von Stroke, Barclay's son, got on stage, and his wife got on stage. It was just a really cool moment, and it's something that kind of sticks in my brain quite a lot. So that's probably like a real standout moment, I think.
I love that. That sounds fun. You mentioned before about curating the lineup for the show this year in New York, and a lot of the artists that are on this specific lineup are from Era, from your label, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about where Era is at the moment, because it's become, more than just a label now. You're doing so much with it. So how would you personally define Era in one sentence?
Era in one sentence, I would. It's a hard one to sum up in one sentence, but
It doesn't have to be a specific sentence, but where do you feel like you're at this present moment in time?
I mean, there's definitely a change going on with Era. I think the sound that was being pushed through last year. I mean, like when I launched Era, I love the idea that we can make this like futuristic sort of sound, but still pay homage to the scene, and that's sort of the main reason why I launched it. So I don't know how you would sum that in one word, but that's sort of the idea, and I still want to carry that on, and last year I was very very deep into the visual aspect of it,
Mhm.
which I think I still am, but this year it's sort of more music focused, and signing new artists rather than spending all my time working on visual components and stuff. But it feels quite the label still should feel quite futuristic, and you know the music that is on the label should be representative of the stuff that I play and I make as well to an extent. So I'd like to think people feel like the music I make is a little bit different and like off center, and coming up with the fresh ideas and stuff. And that's the kind of music that I want to sign and the artists that I want to sign. And you know, I feel like we're on the way to do that, and we've not actually put out a record yet by somebody else. I mean, I've done some collaborations with different artists, obviously on the album, and I work with Linska on two or three records, which was great to be kind of at the start of her career, and she's gone off to do great things. So, but I'm excited now to actually start pushing new artists and take them under the wing and offer them what I can. Just like what Jamie Jones and Adam Beyer and all those guys did for me years ago.
Do you get sent a lot of demos for the label?
Yeah, and a lot of them are shite,
But
being
then
honest. But
you
a
must
lot, a
get
lot of them.
bangers as well.
You do, yeah, you do. But it's like it's almost like sifting through the crap to get to the goal. It's almost like rewarding in a sense because like you'll find this like complete banger. Like there's this one dude. His name's Giovanni. I can't remember his second name, but we're actually in the middle of signing an EP from him. But I was like, this stuff is so fucking good, man. I was like, I know he's got like 400 followers on SoundCloud, and I was like, how are you making music so good and nobody's fucking heard of you and you've got like 400 followers? You nuts, you know? It's like it just sounds like stuff that would sit in the middle of a loco dice set all night, you know? And it's like you should be massive. I don't know what the hell's going on here. So we immediately I was like, all right, I want to sign like all your music. He sent me like 6 or 7 tracks. I've signed almost all of them. I'm testing them out all next weekend in New York and in Space Miami or whatever. But like that to me is super rewarding. And then also like to see, artists like Linska where she'd gone off and done her own thing, and I'm proud to like be a small part of the start of that. And it's just, for me, it's super cool because it's nice to know that you've helped other people the way that other people has helped me. So that's for me the most rewarding thing. And that's kind of the real idea behind the label. Beyond creating the sound and stuff is to kind of give new artists a real push.
What's it like working with Linska?
Good. Yeah, she's great. She whenever I met her first, she was I think we met in I was doing a show in Bulgaria with Artbat, and she was at the show, and I think we met very briefly, but then the next day I was going through all like my Instagram, like the tags and stuff like that, and I seen that she had tagged me, but I noticed she had this massive following. At the time I didn't know who she was, but because she used to be an actress before that, and she still is, but her actress name was Ella Balenska, and then I looked into it a bit more and I was like, wait, hang on, was that the girl from Resident Evil that I watched last month? And I was like, it fucking is. I mean, she obviously looked a bit different in it, and I was like, fuck. So anyway, so I hit her up and I was like, hey, this is sick. I'm glad you like. I love the show or whatever. If you're ever down to work on a record, let's try something, or maybe like a spoken word thing or whatever. And she was super pumped about it, and that record turned out to be Digital Dream. She launched the Linska project to work in line with that record, and then we followed up with Choose Life on the album. But then between then, she's had her own successes, and she's been going off to do great things, and it's just great to see her rise as well. And it's just it makes me feel cool, just to see these guys do so good and to sort of like watch them fly and stuff, and it kind of gives me a bit of validation too that I've not got a terrible taste in music.
No, I can see that that must feel really rewarding. And especially as you said, when other people have helped you in the past and you kind of giving back that help and support to other artists must feel really good. Is there anyone
Yeah,
else?
yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just gonna agree with you.
Is there anybody, I'm sure that there's lots of people, but is there anyone specific that you have never had the chance to work with in the studio that you would like to?
I mean, I would love to do something with Coxie. We actually did do something before, but like not actually in the studio. I did this like remix EP for him, but I would love to actually sit in the studio and work on a record with him. So he'd be one, and then uh, I don't know, like it's constantly changing. It's like one month I'm like mad into like cinematic sci-fi stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to work with this guy that composed this soundtrack, and then 6 months later, I love some tech house dude or whatever. So it's just always constantly changing. But at the minute, I'd love to do something with Coxie, and then I don't know, maybe some of the housey guys as well would be nice because I'm kind of on that tip at the minute. But no, I mean, honestly, like anybody that I've really wanted to work with, I kind of am. So like, I've wanted to work with Tiga for ages, and we're working on a record now. I wanted to work with Josh Wink for a long time. Now we're doing a record, and Patrick Topping, we just finished this absolute banger of a record that but I've wanted to work with him for ages. So there's not a lot of people left on the list really, but it's ever changing.
Yeah, I can imagine. Outside of electronic music, are there any like specific films or games or other types of genres of music that are really inspiring you at the moment?
Yeah, I've been playing Arc Raiders a lot these days. Have you heard of that game?
No, I haven't. I don't know
No,
much
yeah,
about
it's,
games.
it's no, okay. I'm an avid gamer.
Are you really? I'm a gamer.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah, a bit
probably
of
why
a
you
under.
like the visual side of things as well for the label?
Yeah, yeah, probably. I don't. I'm a bit of an undercover gamer. I don't try and talk too much about it because I'm pretty shy at it to be honest. But I enjoy it. But I play a lot of Arc Raiders, and before that, for years I was absolutely addicted to this game called Cyberpunk 2077, and I actually ended up falling in love so much with the soundtrack that definitely one of my Drumcode EPs was completely inspired by it. But then also I ended up working with the composer behind the soundtrack for my album last year. This guy called PT Adamczyk from Poland, and we made this like super cool cyberpunky song. But so that would be that, and then again, it's just I don't get a huge amount of time these days to play games, but and then films. I love like Black Mirror and all those like weird sci-fi things where it's like alternate realities of like what could happen,
Yeah.
like those kind of weird ones. And then there's this one I'm watching at the minute. Oh, I can't remember the name, but the girl from Breaking Bad's in it. It just came out recently. There was the Vince Gilligan that created Breaking Bad made it as well. It's pretty new, but it's basically this film or this TV show where the girl, she's like everybody comes like super happy, and like they just like get all like brainwashed or whatever, and there's just like this one girl that's like pessimistic, and she's like not happy, and she they're all trying to help her with things, and she's just like fighting the system and stuff. And yeah, it's I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's super good. But any of those kind of weird sort of TV shows where it's like fuck, it's just this is a bit strange where the world could go. I like that.
Do you find that when you're in the studio so much and you're working or you're on the road, do you always make sure that you give yourself like a specific point where you say, that's it, up to here, I'm going to go and do something else now?
Like what do you mean
As
what
in
do you
for
mean like
breaks,
something?
like breaks, for example, like when you're in the studio, do you make sure you give yourself a specific time of working and then think to yourself, okay, I'm going to go and play a game, or I'm going to go and just chill out, or I'm going to go and watch a film? Or do you just carry on working on tracks until it's done? Because I feel like I read a post from you once and it was some notes that you'd written down. And I think it said one of them that said something like, don't put all of your if you're like on a roll with something, don't put it all in there and then like step back from it and come back.
Yeah,
um, so
yeah, yeah,
that's where I was going with that.
yeah, yeah. I do that quite a lot because more so like at the start of the project where like it's still the idea stage, because I feel like if you spend too much time on one thing, then you get bored of it very quickly. But if you kind of hold back, it's just at the start. If you hold back just a little bit to the point where you're like, I can't wait to get back into here and work on this record again. It just gives you a brand new energy when you come back to it, rather than like spending an extra 2 or 3 hours and then being like, oh shit, now I've got bored of this record. I don't know if I like it anymore. Because I think one of the biggest problems of any art or any kind of career is resistance, and that's something that I really work hard on, is like not let resistance take over, and that's very easy to do. It's like, not wanting to do. It's so easy just to say, "Fuck, I don't want to do anything today. I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch TV or whatever." But like, we're all our own bosses, right? Because we haven't got anybody to tell us to get up and go to work, and we have to be our own boss. So we have to like overcome this resistance thing, and I feel like that's a really good thing that I've learned the hard way, is like just hold back, even though you really want to keep working on it, just like cut it off and come back, even if it's only for a few hours, because you'll come back then and you'll be way more energized and you'll have a fresh mindset. And you know eventually you'll get to the weeds where it's like you're mixing the track down and you're mastering it and stuff, and that's different. But like at that initial point when you're like creating the seed of the record, you need to like really hold back a little bit. I think that's what worked for me anyway.
When you look at where you started and where you are now, what is the one thing that has never actually really changed, even though your sound has evolved?
Do you mean like how
In
do you mean
your
like do you mean like
your I don't know, your work ethics, or I don't know, a specific way of working. Um, do you feel like your way of working and the formula that you work on, is that still always the same, or has there been things you've changed along the way?
No, I mean, really, like I still operate from the exact same studio as what I've been operating for the past 15 years. I still more or less do things the exact same way. I mean, I find it very hard to let people in on my music, so I'm very precious about it, and I'm kind of like, you mentioned Chris Avantgarde. He's probably one of the few guys that I would send music to, or let him actually help with my tracks or like collaborate with, because most of the time I just do my own thing, and that's always been the way, so the actual like the way I do things hasn't changed much, but just little things like that tip we were talking about, stuff we got. If I, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, I would have loved to have known that, because I would have probably, it would have got me a bit further or whatever, but or maybe not, but it might have saved a couple of grey hairs, like. but but it's not much has changed really, and I feel like that's You know, the thing I love about making music is that it's like super pure. Opening up Ableton and making a song, they don't give a shit how many Instagram followers you have. They don't care about your, the music doesn't care about your Spotify monthly listeners. It doesn't care about anything. It just, you're making a song and that's it. It's just for me, it's like very pure, and it's like the one thing that I can always go back to and know that I can control it. I know that I can make a good song, or I can make music, and I don't have to rely on anybody else to help me with that. And it's just for me, that's kind of, I don't know. It's almost like it doesn't feel like work. It just kind of feels like it relaxes me a little bit. Which is maybe not super healthy when it's also your work, but you know,
What do you think has been the biggest challenge in your career so far, and how has that shaped you as an artist?
biggest challenge, I guess, like the peaks and troughs, and I remember years ago when I was on this massive high and we just broke through for the first time. And I remember speaking to Paul Wilford about it, and I was on the phone one day with him, and he was like, "Just be ready." I was like, "Be ready for what? I'm fucking levitating here, man. This is crazy." He's like, "Just be ready. There's peaks and there's troughs. This is the way it works. And don't worry about it. That's just how it goes." And at the time, I was like, "What the fuck does this guy know?" But now I know exactly what he meant. Because there's been ups, there's been downs, over and backs, and it's just that's sort of, and it's all about how you handle those moments. Because obviously it's easy to, when things are going well, it's going well, but when you're actually having to like regroup again, kind of like the start of this year, whenever I was like, oh shit, I gotta, I feel like I need to do something fresh here. Like it's all about your mindset at that point, and that's all about, how you deal with it, and that's what I think, the that's what I think the long term, like the guys that have been around for 30 years, like Carl Cox and all those dudes, that's what they've mastered, and they don't get panicked by it, and they don't make silly decisions because of where they're at, and also it makes you appreciate the moment a bit more whenever you do, have that moment again, and you kind of, it's definitely like a humbling sort of thing, so yeah, that's what I would say.
Is there is there a moment in your career that still feels quite surreal to you, or a moment that you just sometimes think, I can't believe that that happened, or do you just kind of does life just kind of go on and then you're on to the next thing?
The whole fucking thing is mad, man. Like the whole thing is nuts. Like literally, like when I was 14, I remember when I was 14 or 15 and started DJing. Actually, I was probably younger than that, 12 or 13. And I was like, I just wish I could like become a DJ and travel the world and tour, and I've been doing that now for 5 or 6 years. But when you're there, then the goalposts start to move, right? Because you're never fucking happy, which is, well, at least I'm never happy anyway, which is a bit of a, problem. And maybe I need to work on that. But it's just never changes. you know, like sometimes you need to zoom out a bit and be like, this was a crazy year. I've got to do this. I got to do this, and I'm playing here. I've been doing this. This has been amazing. You know, um, it's just never ends. But the whole thing is just so surreal. I can call my favorite DJs when I was 12 or 13. Now my colleagues, which is nuts. I was like, what the fuck? It's like it's crazy, man. I brush shoulders with them every weekend. Going to gigs or festivals and stuff, and like it's not lost to me at all. But the whole thing feels surreal, and I'm just so glad to like have a career this long, and still be able to do what I love. And, people seem to like it, and I'll keep doing it until the wheels fall off.
Were there any artists that you were specifically starstruck by when you met them for the first time, when that younger version of you used to listen to them or see them play, and then you actually got to meet them?
Not really, and it's funny that actually, because like I always thought like one of my biggest inspirations of my whole career has always been Deadmau5, and when I worked on a record with them last year for the album, I kind of was like, I don't know how to explain it, but like I go into like this work mode where it's like I don't really get starstruck. So like we would be like just texting over and back, and we'd be talking about silly shit, and like I don't view it like, if I thought about it too much, I would probably be like, oh my god, I'm talking to my favorite artist ever. But I just get into this like weird zone where I just don't really think about it much, and like it's the same with at festivals. I could be like sitting in a golf cart with some massive DJ that I've loved for 20 years. I'm just talking to them about how's the weather today or whatever, and like we just, there's nothing there. And like, even Coxie, like I went to the studio in Melbourne, and, during COVID, we hung out there for a while, we had food, and, we were just talking about the rave scene back in the 90s. And he was actually talking about Kelly's in Port Rush at one point too, actually. but there was nothing. I wasn't nervous or like, oh fuck, I'm going to meet Carol Cox, and I didn't let it get in my head. And I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm like that, but I never really tend to get starstruck. Who knows? Maybe someday.
No, that's cool to be like that. That's really cool. What about in terms of gigs? Like, were there any specific dream gigs that you had when you were younger or you were just starting out? And how do they compare to your dream gigs today? Is there any specific place that you haven't yet played at that you would like to? Or anything that you haven't done yet in your career that you would like to?
Yeah, I mean, like there's some places I've really wanted to play over the years, like Tomorrowland, which we ended up doing, in 2019 and also in 21, and it definitely lived up to expectations. It's an amazing festival, and it's I'm super proud to say I did it. And then we did Coachella 2 years ago, which was a big one as well. And this year I'm playing EDC for the first time in May, which is a bucket list one. And it's always changing, but you know uh, I think like now, because I'm really working on like building the community and sort of like growing my own brand, like what I would love to do in the next couple of years is start doing more era parties, and maybe at some point doing some Ibiza residency if it works out, or starting to do more parties like a era party in New York or something like that, and those sort of things. And that's sort of where my head's at now, rather than like specific venues. And like I'm so lucky to say that I've probably played most of the big venues in the world at this point, through the years. And from the drum sheds, which I think we actually spoke, we talked to drum shed, right?
Yeah, we did.
um you know yeah, from there to, like, as we said, Tomorrowlands to the Gas Hider. I've done them all, and I think now it's sort of like I want to work on building the community, and that's like the next big thing for me, I think.
I think the other place that we did an interview was somewhere in Poland. Was it?
No, it was
Norway?
Finland, was it?
Finland.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
I was
fun.
like, what? I was like, what? What are you doing this random fucking gig in Finland? I think you're with your brother, right?
I was with my brother. You've got a really good memory. Yeah,
I know.
yeah. I was sent there to go and do a random interview.
Yeah, that
Um,
was that was that was a cool. That was yeah. I think actually Chris Avancart was there as well. Actually, that day.
yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah,
cool. Tiesto was there. It was quite fun. I enjoyed that.
yeah.
And what about this year? I mean, you've obviously got loads happening. You're working on your new sound. Um, lots happening with the label as well, as you said. What are you most looking forward to, or are you just looking forward just to get everything going now?
I'm just looking forward to start putting out this music, really, that I've been working on the past while. So like, this Friday I've got this remix for Calvin Harris that comes out, and then next month I do this record on Era with an old. He's not old, but he's been around for years. He's this really like legendary techno producer from Belfast called Phil Kieran. I have a collaboration with him with one of his old records, and that's going to come out on my own label. And then we've got like a bunch of other stuff, like a release on Clooney's Hellbent Records, and then a couple of cool collaborations, like the one with Patrick Topping and Tiga and stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff happening in the background that I'm just like kind of chomping at the bit to sort of start previewing it and getting it out there, And it was actually funny because like all these records that are coming out, they haven't really been tested, which is something that I've never really done before, because I've always been in like this massive cycle of always touring every weekend. And this is the first time that I'm actually putting out records that I've not really played out that much, just because I've not really been touring the past few months. So it'll be interesting to see how they do compared to the ones that are road tested. But no, it's good, man. And then the touring side is starting to pick up as well. We're going on the road from next weekend, and I'll go to Australia for Ultra Festival, and um, most of May and June spent, I think, in North America, and then we do a bunch of stuff in South America as well. So yeah, so it's all starting to kind of heat up.
It'll be non-stop from here. That's it. Next weekend, you're out the door, and then that's it.
That's it. Job's done.
Job done. Well, listen, it's been so lovely to catch up with you. Thank you so much
You
for
too.
taking the time to do this. What are you going to do now? Are you going to spend some more time in the studio? You're off to chill for a bit.
I gotta go home and feed the dogs actually,
Nice.
which
What's your
is
dog
very.
called?
I got 2 of them. One's called Alfie, and the other one's called Archie.
Alfie and Archie.
Yeah. Well, I've actually got three. I've got a dog called Juno as well, and but she stays with my mum because she's attached to the hip with her. But Archie and Alfie Archie's like a 1 year old cocker spaniel, and then Alfie's like a Cavachon mix or whatever. So the two of them are just like, yeah. Archie's the cocker. He's only like a year old, so he's still a wee bit wet behind the ears. So I have to keep an eye on him, like. But
You
it
must
keeps me busy.
you must miss them so much when you're on the road.
I do, I do. It's one of the sort of downfalls, but it is what it is, isn't
But also, there's nothing like being greeted when you've been away by your dog. Like
it?
there's nobody does it better than your dog.
No, I know. You go away for 20 minutes and they think you're gone for 20 years.
Literally, I just popped out to the supermarket to grab one thing and I came back and my dog was like, "Oh my God, she's back."
Yeah, you're
And
back.
literally just
Where
left.
where have you been all my life?
Yeah, literally. Oh, well, listen, I'll let you go and feed the dogs, but thank you
No
so
bar.
much for chatting and
No worries. Thank you.
I'll see you in some random place soon.
Definitely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.